The day of fire. The day began like any other on Earth. Children played in the streets. Workers filled the cities, and the skies were clear. No one expected that within hours, 3 billion lives would vanish in fire and smoke dot. It started with a deep hum that shook the oceans and rattled windows across continents. People looked up, confused, as the sky darkened. At first, they thought it was a storm. But it was not clouds that covered the sun. It was ships. Alien ships. Came in silence, thousands of them blotting out the stars. Some were the size of mountains, others like floating cities. Humanity had always wondered what would happen when first contact came. Now they had their answer. The attack was sudden. No warning, no message, no reason. Beams of light cut through the atmosphere, striking cities with terrifying precision. Skyscrapers melted into rivers of glass. Streets turned into seas of fire. Whole populations vanished in seconds. In New York, people screamed as the ground split apart. In Shanghai, towers collapsed like children's toys. In Lagos, the earth trembled under explosions that shook the horizon. Across the world, alarms blared, but there was nowhere to run. The global defense forces tried to fight back. Jets took to the skies, firing missiles at the alien ships. Naval fleets launched everything they had. Nuclear weapons lit up the clouds. But it was useless. The alien shields did not break. Their weapons did not miss. Humanity's strongest defenses fell apart in less than an hour. By the end of the first day, billions were dead. Cities were ash, oceans boiled, and entire nations were gone. Survivors crawled out from rubble, covered in dust and blood, staring at the blackened sky. The world was ending. And yet, even in the ruins, humanity whispered one word. Why? No one knew why the aliens had come. They did not demand surrender. They did not speak. They simply killed. It was as if humanity itself was being erased. Deep underground, inside a hidden base in Siberia, a group of generals and scientists gathered in silence. Their screens showed burning cities. Their radios carried nothing but screams. They had failed to protect the Earth. General Marcus Hiley slammed his fist on the table. His voice was rough, filled with rage. They killed 3 billion of us in one day. If we do nothing, there will be no tomorrow. The room was quiet. Everyone knew what he was thinking, but no one dared to say it. Finally, an old scientist whispered, "The vaults." The air grew heavy. Everyone looked at him, fear in their eyes. The vaults were not a myth. They were real, buried deep beneath mountains and oceans, sealed for centuries. Inside them slept things that were never meant to walk the earth again. Not monsters, not long ago. During humanity's darkest wars, scientists had created weapons too powerful to control. Creatures of steel and flesh, fused with human minds, built to destroy entire armies. They were the Nightmare Division, locked away because they were too dangerous even for humans. For decades, they had remained silent, forgotten, buried. But now, with billions dead, humanity had no other choice. A young officer spoke with trembling words. "If we open those vaults, we may not be able to control them. They could destroy us too." General Hawley looked at the burning earth on the screen. His jaw tightened. "They already destroyed us." Silence fell again. Outside, the sky glowed red as alien fire rained down. The earth trembled like it was. Crying out in pain. At that moment, humanity made its choice. The vaults would be opened far, beneath the ruins of Europe. Heavy doors that had not moved in centuries groaned as they unlocked. Dust fell from the ceiling as massive gears turned. Behind those doors, in endless darkness, something stirred. The ground shook. The air filled with a low growl, deeper than thunder. Eyes glowed in the black, red like fire, watching the humans. Who dared to wake them? The monsters had slept for hundreds of years. But now they were awake, and the galaxy would soon learn a terrible truth. Humanity had been holding back. Asterisk, the forgotten vaults beneath the frozen lands of Siberia, hidden under layers of steel and rock, lay the oldest secret of humanity. Few alive even knew it existed. Fewer still had ever seen its doors. The survivors who had gathered there were not ordinary soldiers. They were the last guardians of a project buried in shame and fear. Men and women who had sworn an oath, never open the vaults, no matter the cost. But now the cost had changed. 3 billion lives lost, cities gone, nations burned, humanity was dying. And the aliens showed no mercy. General Marcus Halle stood in front of a massive blast door, his breath turning to mist in the cold air. The steel was thick, scarred by time, with warning signs carved in every language of Earth. One line stood out above all others. "Do not release," the young officer. Beside him swallowed hard. "Sir, this vault was sealed for a reason. What's inside? It isn't human." Hale's eyes were like stone. "Neither are the ones killing us." With a gesture, the unlocking process began. Massive gears screamed as they turned for the first time in centuries. Dust and ice fell from the walls. Red lights flickered in the chamber as the door cracked open. The stale air of ages rushed out, heavy and foul. Behind the steel barrier was darkness deep, endless, alive with something unseen inside. Rows of cages and pods stretched into the black. Some were broken, their glass cracked. Others still pulsed with light, keeping what lay within asleep. Soldiers stepped inside, their boots echoing on the floor. Every sound seemed too loud, as if the vault itself was listening. A scientist whispered, his voice shaking, "These things were created in the old wars. They were called monsters, because they were beyond control. We buried them to save ourselves." But as their eyes adjusted, they saw shapes moving inside the pods. Bodies of steel and flesh, twisted and powerful. Long arms with claws like blades. Faces that looked almost human, yet wrong eyes glowing. Faint red even in sleep. One soldier backed away. "This is madness. They'll kill us too." General Hall stepped forward, standing before the largest pod of them all. Inside was a towering figure, twice the size of a man, with armor fused into its flesh. Its chest rose and fell slowly, as though it had been waiting. Hale's voice was low but steady. "No, they'll kill our enemies first." The unlocking sequence began. Machines hissed, lights turned red, and alarms blared. The pod opened with a slow, terrible sound. Steam poured into the chamber. The monster stepped forward. Its feet hit the ground like thunder. Soldiers raised their guns, hands shaking, unsure if they should fire. The creature's head turned. Its eyes, burning like coals, scanned the humans. Then it bowed not to the aliens. To them, the silence was broken only by the sound of the beasts. Growl low and deep, as though promising destruction to whoever had brought. Death to Earth. Word spread quickly through what was left of the military networks. Humanity had unleashed the vaults. Across the globe, other sealed doors began to open. Africa, South America, the deep ocean. Everywhere, the monsters stirred. In orbit, alien fleets recorded strange signals rising from the planet. At first, they ignored them, but soon their commanders grew uneasy. The readings were unlike anything in their archives. Something old, something dangerous. On the alien flagship, a commander hissed in fear. It cannot be. The humans would not dare use those. But they had. In the ruins of Berlin, a family hiding in a shelter felt the ground shake. At first, they thought it was another alien strike. But then they heard the roar of something ancient, rising from the depths. The sound made the walls vibrate and their hearts race. Children clung to their parents. Soldiers froze in their trenches. Survivors whispered in awe. The monsters of Earth had awakened Dot, and for the first time since the attack began, humanity did not feel helpless. General Hawley looked at the towering figure beside him and spoke with quiet fury. The aliens wanted war. Now they will have one. The first monster walks the night sky above Earth, still burned with alien fire. Cities were gone, oceans boiled, and survivors hid like shadows in the ruins. But in the frozen wastelands of Siberia, something new had risen. The first monster Dotted stood taller than any tank, its body a fusion of steel and flesh. Its skin was armored with black plates, scarred from wars fought long before this age. Tubes and wires pulsed across its chest, glowing with red energy. Its eyes shone like molten fire, cutting through the dark. Soldiers stood frozen, their rifles shaking in their hands. The creature's heavy breath echoed like thunder inside the vault. No one dared move. General Hawley stepped forward. His voice was calm, but his heart pounded. "Do you understand me?" The monster turned its head, the sound of grinding metal filling the air. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, with slow, deliberate movement, it bent one knee. Its head bowed before the humans. The soldiers gasped. A weapon created centuries ago, feared and locked away, had chosen to kneel. "Then you are with us," Hawley said. His eyes hardened. "Rise." The monster stood, towering over them all. The ground shook under its weight. It was awake, and it was ready. Hours later, alien ships circled over the ruins of Moscow. Their weapons glowed, preparing another strike. Survivors in the rubble cried out, some praying, others waiting for death. But then the ground split open. Smoke and fire burst from the earth as the monster climbed into the open. Its roar shook the ruins. Every window shattered. Birds fled into the burning sky. The aliens hesitated. Their scanners screamed with warnings they did not understand. This thing was not supposed to exist. The first shot came from above. A beam of white energy struck the monster's chest. Dust and fire exploded around it. For a moment, the humans hiding below thought it was over. But when the smoke cleared, the monster was still standing. Its armor glowed, cracked but unbroken. Its eyes burned brighter. With a speed that defied its size, it leapt forward. The ground split as it launched itself into the air. One clawed hand tore through an alien gunship, ripping it apart like paper. The sky rained metal and fire. Another ship fired, but the monster swung its arm, sending a beam of red energy from its chest. The blast cut the alien craft in half, its wreck falling into the streets below. For the first time, humanity watched. The invaders bleed Dot in a hidden bunker. Survivors stared at the sky through broken cameras. They saw the monster move, destroying ship after ship. A boy whispered to his mother, "Is it ours?" His mother pulled him close, her voice trembling. "Yes, it's ours." On the alien flagship, panic spread. Commanders shouted orders, demanding more firepower. But the monster fought like an army by itself. Every strike from the aliens only made it more furious. General Hale's voice echoed over the combs. "Let them see what we buried. Let them see what we feared more than death itself." And the aliens saw. The battle lasted only an hour, but by its end, the skies above Moscow were clear. Alien wreckage burned across the landscape. Survivors crawled from hiding, looking up in awe at the giant standing amidst the flames. The monster did not celebrate. It did not speak. It simply stood, waiting. Its red eyes scanned the horizon, as if searching for the next enemy. For the first time since the Day of Fire, the people of Earth felt something other than fear. They felt hope dot, but in the command chamber of the flagship, the alien leader trembled. His voice was low, filled with dread. The humans have awakened them. The monsters of war. His second-in-command hissed, "If they unleash more, the galaxy itself will tremble." The leader's gaze darkened. "Then we must destroy Earth before they all rise." In the Siberian base, General Hale stood beside the creature. Around him, the other vaults remained sealed, but for how long? Each one held another weapon, another nightmare. A scientist whispered, "This was only the first. There are more, far worse." Hale nodded grimly. "Then it's time to open them." One by one, the monster raised its head to the sky, as though it understood. The fire in its chest pulsed, and the ruins shook again. The first monster had walked, and the galaxy had just learned that humanity's darkest weapons were no longer sleeping. Asterisk terror. Among the stars, the ruins of Moscow still burned when the first alien fleet withdrew. Survivors stood in silence, watching the wreckage fall from the sky. They had seen the impossible. One monster had destroyed ships that no army could stop, but in the command chambers of the alien empire, fear spread faster than fire. Across the galaxy, transmissions carried one message: the humans have awakened the vaults. The word spread like poison. Every commander, every governor, every ruler remembered the ancient warnings. Long ago, before humans joined the stars, whispers had reached the Empire's rumors of forbidden weapons locked away on the death world called Earth. The galaxy had laughed, dismissing it as myth dot. Now the myth had risen dot inside the alien flagship. The supreme commander of the invasion fleet studied recordings of the battle. His claws dug into the arm of his throne. The monster's image froze on the screen, red eyes burning, claws dripping with alien blood, standing over broken ships. "This," the commander hissed, "is not a weapon. It is a plague." One of his officers shook with fear. "Shall we send more fleets, Exalted One?" The commander's gaze was dark. "No, we will burn the planet from orbit. Every vault must be destroyed before they spread." But humanity had already made its move in the Siberian base. General Marcus Hale stood before a map of the Earth. Red lights marked the vaults, 13 in total. Only one had been opened. A scientist warned, "If we release too many at once, we may not control them. They are not soldiers. They are predators." Hale's voice was like iron. "Predators are exactly what we need. The aliens killed 3 billion of us. I will unleash all 13 if that's what it takes." Around him, soldiers nodded. They no longer feared the monsters. They feared extinction. Days later, as alien fleets regrouped in orbit, the second vault opened. This one, beneath the ruins of the Pacific Ocean. Out of the depths rose something vast, serpentine, armored in black scales, eyes like burning suns. It moved through the water like a living storm, shattering warships with a single strike of its tail. The oceans boiled as the monster screamed, its roar carrying across the waves. Even from the shore, survivors covered their ears, trembling as the sea itself seemed alive with rage. Alien carriers above the Pacific were torn apart by beams of red fire, shooting from the waves. Whole squadrons vanished beneath the surface, dragged down by unseen claws. The aliens tried to retreat. They were too slow. Across the stars, panic turned into terror. Fleets recalled from other wars. Colonies abandoned. Civilian broadcasts screamed. Warnings: do not go near Earth. The monsters walk again. On distant planets, alien children asked their elders, "What are the humans?" And the elders, once proud, had no answer. For the people of Earth, hope burned brighter. Survivors emerged from bunkers, looking to the sky not with fear, but with fury. They whispered of revenge. They whispered of monsters that fought for them. General Howe spoke to the fractured governments through a secure broadcast. His voice carried across the battered world. They erased 3 billion of us, but we are not finished. We have weapons, older than their empires. They thought we were weak. Now they will learn the truth. Humanity is never weak. Humanity endures. Humanity fights. And with the monsters at our side, we will make the stars themselves tremble. In orbit, the alien commander received the broadcast. His claws shook. His voice broke into a snarl. They dare challenge us with these abominations? Then we will show them fire they cannot resist. Prepare the planet killer. The bridge fell silent. The planet killer was no ordinary weapon. It was the Empire's final answer. A machine the size of a moon, designed to erase entire worlds in minutes dot, and it was coming to Earth dot back on the ground. The first monster stood beside Halle at the Siberian base, its red eyes watching the stars, as though it knew what was coming. The ocean beast roared in the distance, shaking the very earth. One scientist whispered, "We have awoken only 2. 11 remain." Hale's face was grim. "Then let them come. The monsters are not done." The world shuddered again, as if something deep beneath was stirring. More vaults, more nightmares, and above, the stars glowed with enemy fire. The final war had only just begun. Asterisk. The plant killer arrives. The stars above Earth turned red. Not from fire, not from warships, but from the shadow of something far larger. The alien empire's greatest weapon had arrived. It was not a ship, it was a world. A planet-sized engine of destruction, forged from black steel and glowing veins of blue fire. The planet killer. Its cannons were bigger than cities. Its engines shook space itself. And its core was built for one purpose: to erase entire planets from existence. The galaxy had seen it before. Dozens of worlds had vanished beneath its wrath. Now it had come for Earth. On the ground, survivors looked up at the night sky and froze. Where once they saw stars, now there was only darkness. Children cried. Soldiers gripped their rifles, though they knew bullets meant nothing. General Hall stood in the Siberian base, staring at the monitors. His voice was steady, but every soldier in the room felt the weight of his words. "The planet killer is here." One of the scientists whispered, "We cannot fight that. No monster, no weapon we have can stand against a machine that devours worlds." But Hale's eyes burned with something stronger than fear. Maybe not one monster, but what? About many? Deep beneath the earth, other vaults began to stir. The ground shook as locks older than nations cracked open. Steam hissed from underground chambers. Metal walls glowed red. From the deserts of Africa to the frozen Arctic, vaults opened like wounds. Humanity's nightmares crawled back into the world. One by one, they emerged, a winged beast that blotted out the sun. A massive crawler with legs like towers, its back bristling with cannons. A swarm of smaller monsters, moving like a living storm of blades and fire. Each one roared as if announcing its return to the stars. The Earth itself seemed to awaken. In orbit, the alien commanders watched in horror. The reports came too fast to believe. Multiple anomalies detected. Energy levels rising across the planet. Unstable life forms, thousands of them. The Supreme Commander's voice was cold, but his eyes trembled. Fire the main cannon. Erase the planet before they spread. The planet killer's core began to glow. A blue light brighter than the sun swirled within its heart. The ground on Earth shook, as if the very planet felt its death approaching. First monster, the armored giant from Siberia, raised its head to the stars. Its chest burned red, answering the challenge. Beside it, the ocean serpent rose from the depths, water cascading down its scaled body like rivers. Then the winged beast launched into the air. soaring into the sky with a scream that shook clouds. Apart, the monsters of Earth had chosen their battlefield. The void above. Hale's voice echoed over the last human networks. They wanted war. They wanted extinction. Now they will see the fury of a world that refuses to die. The planet killer fired. A beam of pure destruction burst from its core, tearing through space like a god's hand. It struck Earth's atmosphere, lighting the skies in blue fire. But before the beam could reach the surface, the winged beast slammed into it. Its body glowed, wings burning as they absorbed the energy. The sky turned white with light as the monster screamed, forcing the beam to bend, to break. On the ground, people covered their eyes. When they looked again, the winged beast still flew scarred, bleeding light but alive. The beam had failed. The alien commander stood frozen. Impossible. Nothing survives the core strike. But the monsters did. And now they were coming. The winged beast clawed through space, ripping into the planet killer's outer shields. Sparks and fire erupted. At the same time, the ocean serpent rose from the sea, leaping into orbit like a missile. Its massive body wrapped around an alien battleship and crushed it in seconds. Then the first monster launched upward on a pillar of red fire from its chest, flying for the first time in millennia. The planet killer had come to erase Earth, but Earth's monsters were rising to meet it in bunkers across the world. Survivors watched on broken screens. They saw their nightmares fight for them. They saw the galaxy's deadliest weapon forced to struggle. For the first time, humans whispered not in fear, but in awe. Our monsters. They are protecting us. But the battle was only beginning. The planet killer roared, engines glowing hotter, weapons charging. Its core pulsed, preparing another strike. General Hale clenched his fists. He knew the truth. One mistake, one failure, and Earth would still burn. The monsters were powerful, yes. But could they defeat a machine built to kill worlds? No one knew. Only the stars would decide. Asterisk, the breaking of the planet killer sky above Earth was no longer stars. It was war. The planet killer's massive core pulsed with blue light, brighter than the moon. Its shields glowed like walls of fire, stretching across miles of space. Every alien fleet in orbit formed a protective ring around it. And against all of this, the monsters of Earth rose. The winged beast clawed through the void, black wings glowing red from battle. The ocean serpent coiled upward, its body glowing, with currents of energy pulled from the seas. The first monster, the armored giant, stood at the front, its chest blazing like a second sun. The battle was no longer for survival. It was for the galaxy itself. On the ground, survivors watched the heavens burn. The monsters were distant shadows tearing apart alien ships, their screams echoing even through the thin air of the upper atmosphere. Children clung to their parents, too scared to cheer, too stunned to look away. General Hall stood inside the Siberian base, his eyes locked on the screens. "This is it," he whispered. "If they fall, Earth falls." The planet killer fired again. A torrent of blue fire cut across space, swallowing everything in its path. The winged beast roared and dove straight into it. Its body lit up like burning coal, flesh cracking as it pushed forward. The beam split apart under its wings, breaking into wild streams of light. Alien ships caught in the misfire were torn apart instantly, but the beast was burning alive. Its body shattered, scales falling into the void. With a final scream, it slammed into the planet killer's shields. The impact shook the machine. Cracks spread across its outer barrier. The winged beast fell away, lifeless, drifting into the black. Earth survivors cried out. Some screamed, others prayed. The first monster raised its head as though mourning its fallen brother. Then its chest burned brighter, pulsing with fury. General Hale's voice broke. It gave its life to open the path. Now we strike. The ocean serpent launched itself upward faster than any warship. Its massive jaws clamped down on an alien cruiser, using it as a weapon. With impossible force, it hurled the burning wreck into the cracked shields. The barrier shattered. For the first time in history, the planet killer was vulnerable. The armored giant did not hesitate. Its claws burned red as it dove into the breach. With one strike, it tore through the machine's armor, cutting deep into its core. Alien commanders screamed in horror. "Stop it! Stop them now!" But it was too late. Inside the planet killer, alarms roared. Systems shut down. Power failed. Across entire sections, flames erupted as the serpent smashed into its hull again, ripping apart weapons the size of cities. The armored giant climbed deeper, claws tearing open chambers that had never known battle. Its chest glowed, building energy for a final strike. On the surface of the world killer, thousands of alien soldiers poured out. They were not ordinary troops. They were elite, born to fight in the vacuum of space. But the monsters tore through them like paper. The serpent's tail lashed across the hull, crushing armies in a single sweep. The giant's claws ripped apart weapons before they could fire. The planet killer was breaking. On Earth, survivors shouted in joy for the first time since the Day of Fire. They saw their nightmares tearing down the greatest weapon of the galaxy. Humanity fights back. One soldier cried, tears streaming down his face. "We fight back." But victory carried a price. As the armored giant tore into the machine's core, a warning flashed across the monitors. The planet killer's failsafe had activated. If it was destroyed, it would take everything within 1,000 miles with it. General Hale's eyes widened. "It's going to self-destruct." The soldiers around him fell silent. They all understood what that meant. Billions of lives could still be lost. The armored giant paused inside the machine. Its red eyes dimmed, then flared brighter. As if it understood. Looked down at Earth, then back at the raging core. Slowly, it placed its massive claws around the unstable reactor, and it held it. The monitors shook. Energy levels spiked, but the monster forced its body to contain the explosion. Cracks split across its armor. Fire burned through its chest. But it would not let go. The serpent coiled around the planet killer, pulling it away from orbit, dragging it toward the emptiness of space. Together, the monsters carried the machine away from Earth. From the surface, people watched the massive weapon drift farther and farther until it was only a burning light in the sky. Then, in silence, it exploded. The stars went dark for a moment. A void burned with fire, brighter than the sun. And then silence. The planet killer was gone, but so was the first monster. On Earth, no one cheered. They stood in silence, tears on their faces, staring at the sky where the giant had fallen. General Hale's voice was heavy with grief, but also pride. They gave their lives for us, for all of humanity. And now the galaxy knows we are not. Pray, we are the storm. The monsters of Earth had broken the unbreakable, but the war was not over. The alien empire still lived, and Earth's vaults still held more horrors waiting to rise. Asterisk. Humanity's monsters marched to the stars. The night after the explosion was silent. No fire burned in the skies. No alien beings split the clouds. Only stars returned, shining faintly over the broken Earth. But the silence was not peace. It was only the pause between battles. Across the ruins of cities, survivors crawled out of bunkers. They looked to the heavens where the planet killer had died. The shockwave had passed, but the image burned into their minds. Earth's monsters rising against the greatest weapon of the galaxy and shattering it. People whispered one truth, over and over. We are not weak anymore. In the Siberian base, General Halle stood in the command room. The air smelled of smoke. Wires burned out from the last energy surges. Soldiers sat in silence, their faces pale, their eyes red from loss. One scientist finally spoke. The monsters. They are gone. The winged beast. The giant. They gave everything. Halle shook his head. His voice was firm. Not gone. They lived through us, and some still remain. As if answering him, the ground beneath the base trembled again. But this time, it was not fear. It was power. From the oceans, the serpent rose once more. Its body was scorched, its scales cracked, but it was alive. Water cascaded from its body as it circled the earth's seas like a guardian dot in the desert. Another vault cracked open. Dust and fire poured from the ground as a new monster emerged, a titan with 4 arms, each one glowing with molten heat dot in the forests of South America. Trees split apart as a beast with horns like mountains tore. Free from its prison, its roar rolled across the horizon like thunder. Earth was awakening. Vault by vault, the alien empire saw it all in their fleets far from Earth. Commanders whispered in terror. They were supposed to be prey. They unleash nightmares with every breath. If we fight again, we will not survive. The Council of Stars, rulers of the empire, gathered in secret. They were beings who had enslaved dozens of species, who had erased countless worlds without fear. But now their halls shook with doubt. One asked, "Do we retreat?" Another answered, "Retreat from Earth? From humans? Never." But there, voices cracked with fear. For the first time in galactic history, the Empire trembled. On Earth, General Hall stood before the remaining leaders of humanity. His uniform was torn, his face scarred, but his eyes burned with fire. "They killed 3 billion of our people," he said, his voice steady. "They thought fear would break us. Instead, they woke the monsters we had locked away. They saw what we are capable of. And now we show them something greater." He raised his hand toward the stars. "We do not wait for them to strike again. We take the fight to them." At that moment, the serpent raised its massive head toward space. Its glowing eyes reflected the stars. The horned beast in the forests roared, shaking mountains. The 4-armed titan beat its chest, its molten arms glowing like suns. They were not wandering aimlessly. They were waiting for humanity's command. The first ships were small human warships, scarred and repaired. They launched from hidden bases, guided by pilots who had nothing left to lose. Around them, the monsters moved, escorting them through the void. The galaxy had fleets. Earth had nightmares as the fleet left orbit, survivors on the ground raised, their fists to the sky. The broken, the starving, the grieving, every one of them knew the same truth. Humanity was no longer fighting for survival. They were fighting for dominance in the Council of Stars. The alien leaders watched the first recordings of Earth's fleet leaving orbit. Beside the ships flew beasts of impossible size, living weapons, each one capable of shattering worlds. One counselor whispered, "What are they becoming?" The answer came not from an alien, but from the humans themselves. Across all frequencies, a message was broadcast into the stars. General Hale's voice, sharp as steel. "You erased 3 billion lives. You thought you ended us. But all you did was awaken something worse. Humanity does not bow. Humanity does not break. Now, humanity marches." The serpent coiled through space, carrying human ships on its back like children. The horned beast leapt from Earth's surface, riding. A blast of energy that cracked the sky. The 4-armed titan walked into orbit itself, its body glowing like a second sun. For the first time, the galaxy saw a fleet It was not built of ships alone, Dot. It was built of monsters. On Earth, the last survivors lifted their eyes, their hearts. No longer crushed by fear, children pointed at the sky and smiled. Soldiers cried openly. Families whispered one word as the fleet vanished into the black void: revenge. And somewhere, hidden in the deepest vaults of Earth, more monsters stirred. The galaxy thought they had seen humanity's worst, but this was only the beginning. Asterisk,